Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Yosef Chaim. Shalom Aleichem, everybody. We haven't seen each other for weeks. Rabbi Yosef Chaim, we are on Torah Anytime, and the same time, Kol Haloshon from Eretz Yisrael. You get it all over the world and in America, instant playback, instant recording. And the New York number is not the one you should call anymore. It's been a new system for 6 months already. We have now hundreds of Magidei Shir from Eretz Yisrael. You know, tonight I'm going to give away a gift. I'm giving away a diamond bracelet, diamondite bracelet, tiny little stones. It looks so real. It's a diamond bracelet. If anyone could answer the following question, and you call Torah Anytime and find out my telephone number, and you call Kol Haloshin to find out my telephone number in New York, and then send me a self-addressed envelope. That's it, with a stamp on it. You'll get a diamond bracelet immediately, next day. A diamondite bracelet. It looks like $5,000, but it's not that expensive. Thin, 7.5 inches. Of diamondite, a tennis bracelet, pave, all around directly. I want to ask the following questions to the people listening on Kol Haloshin and Kol Torah Anytime. Why is it that we start out the Sefiras Haomer and we say the first day, Hayom Yom Echad LaOmer? Why don't we say Hayom Yom Rishon LaOmer? You say Hayom Yom Echad l'Shabbos, b'Shabbos. Why don't you say Hayom Rishon b'Shabbos? And Hashem made the world. He said Yerev Vayvoker Yom Echad. Why didn't he say Rishon the first day? Why by the Bria Sa'olam did he not say Yerev Vayvoker Yom Rishon? Why did he say Yom Echad? And by the Yom every day after davening. Why don't you say Hayom Yom on Sunday? Why don't you say Yom Yom Rishon b'Shabbos? Why are you saying Yom Echad b'Shabbos? And why by Sefiras Haomer you say Yom Yom Echad LaOmer? Why don't you say Hayom Yom Rishon? Anyone can answer that question and get a diamond bracelet next day in the mail. How's that? It's a diamondite bracelet. It's a tennis bracelet. You saw it on the video. It looks beautiful. Call up Torah Anytime. Find out my telephone number. Call up Kol Haloshin. Find out my telephone number. And you'll get it. That's what I want to give you. Okay, Rabbi Yosef Chaim. Now it is in the middle of Sefira. Did everyone count the Sefira? You didn't count the Sefira? You better count it tonight. Tonight is the 15th, Tuesday night, and it's Rosh Chodesh Iyar. 2 days Rosh Chodesh Iyar. That means the first day is the last day of Nisan. And the second day of Rosh Chodesh Iyar is the first day of Chodesh Iyar. So you better count the Sefira, which is 15 days, 2 weeks and 1 day, to the Omer. And in 5 weeks we have Shavuos. And those who count every single day until Shavuos get cheesecake. And if you miss, you don't get any cheesecake. You get the cake without the cheese. So, and why is it a minhag to eat milchiks on chalavi on Shavuos? Why? All right, we'll get closer to Shavuos. We'll talk about the 49 sevens in the Torah and the laws about the Shavuos. Let's talk a little bit about Sefira now. Okay. Number one is this a mitzvah d'oraisa or d'Rabbanan? Sefiras Haomer. Well, it's a big machlokas. In the Rishonim, some say it's a d'oraisa, some d'Rabbanan. The majority of opinion, Tosas, Tur, and Shulchan Aruch say it's a midrabbanan, and that's what it is. The minority, Rambam, Chinuch, and others say it's midraisa. What's the difference? If it's a Rabbanan, you could be mekel if you forgot, or you don't know, or maybe you forgot. Things like that. Also, there's a mitzvah to count 7 weeks. If you get to the weeks, the 7th day, the 14th day, 21, 28, 35, because it says, Tisbru, Usfartum lechem mimochas haShabbos miyom avicham za'omer tenufo sheva Shabbosos tamimos tiyeno. And it's a mitzvah to count the days, because it says in that same pasuk, Tisbru chamishim yom. So you got to count both. So if you counted 7 days, it's not Yosef. You got to say Hayom Shiva Yom Shem Shnei Shavuos. Or tonight, yesterday night. Hayom Arba Osiyom, last night. Hayom Arba Osiyom, Shem Shnei Shavuos. Suppose you only counted one, and not the other. Only weeks. Let's say on the 7th day, and the 14th day, and the 21st day, and the 28th day, and the 35th day, and 42nd day. You're not Yosef, because the Pasuk says, Tisbru Chamishim Yom. But it also says weeks, so you got to do both. Both you counted 14 days, and no weeks. Maybe you're Yosef, maybe you're not. You know why? You know what we're counting from the Korban Haomer, the cutting of the barley on second day Pesach. We count from that day to Shavuos. It's the 49th day. The 50th day is Shavuos. We count the Korban of the Omer. Since there's no Omer today, maybe it's only Rabbanan. Maybe it's a Deraisa if you don't have a Korban. The sphere is one thing, cutting the Omer is something else. All right, that's the machlokas. You have to count the sphere with a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'er kedusha mitzvah tzvana al Sefiras Haomer. Hayom, whatever, Chamish also Yom, which is tonight, the 15th day Shehem, which they are, Shnei Shavuos, or Yom Echad Omer, 14 to 1 is 15. Suppose you didn't make a bracha. You just said Hayom, Chamish also Yom, Shehem, Shnei Shavuos, Yom Echad Omer. You're Yosef, because no mitzvah needs a bracha. It's a mitzvah to make a bracha, but a mitzvah without a bracha is still a mitzvah, because making brachas is another mitzvah in the Torah. There's a Rabbanon gave one of the Shem mitzvahs Rabbanon to make brachas for things. There is no brachas that have been in Torah. Everything you're Yosef without a bracha. You shake the lulav if you're Yosef without a bracha. Put on tefillin you're Yosef without a bracha. Woman goes in a mikveh, she doesn't have to make a bracha. It's a mitzvah to make a bracha on a mitzvah. Put up a mezuzah, don't make a bracha, you're still Yosef. Shake the lulav without a bracha, whatever. It's a mitzvah to make a bracha on mitzvahs. But if you don't, you're still Yosef. Therefore, you're supposed to say make a bracha. Suppose you say tonight, in any language, you say tonight is 15. Oh! I didn't count the Omer. Now you cannot say the bracha anymore. No way. You counted already. And you can count in any language you want. There's a trick, a joke someone said in the beginning of the Sefiras. Someone came over to someone else on the first night of Sefiras. And he said, he came over to somebody who was testing, a very smart fellow. Could you make me Yotze tonight with the Sefira? He says, what do you mean tonight? It's the first night. He says, look, now I'm going to make you Yotze because you just fell in. You hear what I just said? Person says, can you make me Yotze tonight with your bracha? He says, what do you mean? Everybody knows tonight's the first night. No something. Very good. Now I'm going to make you Yotze because you just said it. Anyhow, that's some of the thoughts. Counting weeks, counting days, making a bracha. Is it the Raisa? Is it the Rabbanon? We don't have a Omer, the cutting of the barley, so maybe it's the Rabbanon, maybe it's the Raisa still. And is it one mitzvah or is it 49 mitzvahs? So maybe it could be 49 different mitzvahs, and therefore you're not Yosef till the end. And therefore you don't say Shechiyonim Ki Moni Yagon Azman Hazeh, because today is not Yosef, not tomorrow, not tomorrow, not tomorrow. You're not Yosef till the end. So maybe you can't say Shechiyonim. Well, you have something Shechiyonim Ki Moni Yagon Hazeh the first night of Pesach, because that's the night. And Eretz Yisrael they don't have a second night. So you're Yosef, done, finished. Any Yontif, the first night you say Shechiyonim. But Sefira, maybe it's 49 individual mitzvahs. So you don't say Shechiyonim. Maybe it's one mitzvah. So if it's one mitzvah, and you forgot, that's it, you blew it. But if it's 49 different mitzvahs, what's the difference if you forgot? You can say the next night. I'll count every 10th night. What's the difference? Every time I count is a mitzvah. That's a machlokas. So therefore, you can't make a bracha because maybe it's one mitzvah. Maybe it's 49 mitzvahs. And bracha, Safik bracha l'hakel. And when you come to brachas and you have it down, you got to be makel and not be stringent. Meaning, don't make a bracha. Now, what are you saying? Al Sefiras Haomer, Hayom, so and so, Lo Omer or Ba Omer? Which was the right? The answer is both are right. Different minhagim. And you know what? It doesn't make a difference either. Because if you say Hayom Chamish, Al Sefiras Haomer, Hayom Chamish also Yom. You're Yotze. You don't even need Ba'omer, La'omer. You're Yotze. Yeah, you should say Ba'omer or La'omer. But you're Yotze. Because you said, Al Kerk Rishon as well, Sefiras Haomer Hayom Chamish Al Yom. That's done, you're done. B'di'evet. You say Haomer, Lo Omer, Bo'omer. Bo'omer, Lo Omer. So Ashkenaz will say Lo Omer, others say Bo'omer, but you don't even need it. Not the Chatchila, yeah, but b'di'evet you don't even need it. Tell you another thing that you don't need. First they ask you, what night is tonight? You tell them 15. And the guy didn't die, and the second guy who asked didn't say the sphere yet. What night is tonight, Chaim? Tonight, he just says the word 15. Can he now go and say the sphere in 5 minutes, or whatever the shul davens, or with the bracha? 100%. Because the Mishnah Berurah Paskins, 15 is nothing. You have to say tonight is the 15th day of the Omer. Or the 20th of the Omer. You just say 15, that's nothing. Maybe talking about, I'll be there in 15 minutes, or this way it costs $15. No, Hayom is Iker. Hayom Chamish Osar. Yom. You don't even have to say the Omer. That's b'di'evet. And the word Hayom is Iker. So if someone asks you what's the Omer tonight, you tell them 15, that's nothing. You can count the Omer 100%. But people fall into the trap, so they say yesterday was 14. But actually, the word Hayom is Iker. If you don't say that, didn't count, it's alright. What night is tonight? 15. I can then say a minute later, Baruch Atah Hashem L'Chim Yom Chamish Os Yom, because they didn't say tonight is the 15th day. You have to say Hayom. The word Hayom is Iker. And Bo'omer, Lo Omer is not Iker at all, because you don't say either one of them, you're still Yosef. But the Chatchila is supposed to say, Lo Omer or Bo'omer. So there's many dinim to learn about Sefiras Haomer. When can you say the earliest time? Can you do it at Bein HaShmoshos, twilight? Safek. If you did it count, then you should count again later without a bracha, because bracha doesn't make a difference. You can do any mitzvah in the Torah, you're Yosef without a bracha. All brachas are Rabbanan. There's about 27 brachas. Only one is the Raisa. So it says in the Torah, when you eat bread, a kazayas, not cake, you eat bread, and you have to say Birchas Hamazon. Those 4 brachas. That's it, the Raisa. All the other 135 brachas are all the Rabbanon. So, it's one of the Shem mitzvahs of the Rabbanon, it's the same brachas. There's 3 types of brachas. Brachas ha-mitzvah, like putting up a mezuzah, going in the mikveh, putting on tefillin, putting on tzitzis, and abiyah chometz, that's a mitzvah, the rice, abiyah chometz, looking for the chometz. That's making bracha on the new plant, the new blossoms in Nisan. You can do it in Iyar too, but they're called Pirchei Nisan. The bracha, the flowers of Nisan. That's all a mitzvah, and brachas a mitzvah. Then there's brachas hanenin. I eat a steak, or I drink a glass of water, and eat an apple. And brachas hanenin. Then there's a third type, brachas hashevach. I see a shooting star. I say osem masav reishos, or thunder, shekochel v'rosam ol olam, or the ocean, or a rainbow, or the different brachas, right? That's called brachas hashevach. I see a midget or a giant, or the ocean, or whatever, a tornado. I hear a tornado or a hurricane. If it makes noise, you say shkochel v'rosam ol olam. If it's quiet, like the ocean, you say, or a waterfall, that's quiet. That comes it's running all the from day 1 to 5,000 years ago. And talking about a thunder, a lightning, a tornado, a hurricane, you make thunder, but if you see something that's not the momentary blast, you say osim masav reishos. You see the ocean every day, and you live near the ocean, you don't make a bracha. It says in Shulchan Aruch, the first time you see a kushi, you got to make a bracha. First time you see a pill, an elephant. But we grew up with these things, so we don't make a bracha. But this is Birchas HaShevach, to praise God. Anyhow, when can you, both you made the bracha, you said the Sefira, even without a bracha, at Bein HaShmoshos, then when it gets dark, because that's only Softik Laila, when it gets dark, at Tzeitz HaKochavim, 42 or 72 minutes later, you make, it's count again without a bracha. Because either way, you don't need a bracha, the Ikrazak is counting. When should you do it ideally? Ideally, you should do it the minute of night. That means like 42 or 72 minutes after sunset. Ideally, it's not at Plag HaMincha. Ideally, it's not after that Bein HaShmoshos. Ideally, it's not at sunset. Ideally, it's at Seis HaKochavim. That's because it says Tamimos. After you're counting, you should have 24 hours. So if you say 10 o'clock at night at Dominion, it's very nice, but you don't have 24 hours after you're counting. You say 12 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning, you also Yotze. As long as it's not, it is before Alos HaShacha, which is 72 minutes before sunrise. Because you can still have Marav then, right? So, but you can say the sphere the whole night. But l'chachil, you should have 24 hours between every counting. So you should say the moment of Seis. But if you have a minya kavua, every night you daven 9:45, 10:30, whatever, you can say it then, because then you'll never forget it. You know something? I want to tell you something. You know, Marav should always come first, and then Sefira. So if you daven in a minyan, Marav does come first, and then Sefira. But suppose you daven Marav privately, and no, let's say you daven, no, you don't have no minyan. So now what comes first? It's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. What should you do first? Marav, because Marav's Tadir, and Sefira is only 49 days a year, and Marav is every single day of the year. Tadir She'en Tadir, Tadir Kodim. So you got to daven Marav first. So if there's a Marav, really Marav should come first. Let's say at 8 o'clock, and then maybe you want to daven, say Sefira at 10 o'clock at night. It really should be like that. But the answer is no. If you should not daven Sefira at the first minute of Seis HaKochavim, let's say 8:30 when your minyan is 10 o'clock. You know why? Because you're saying the Sefira the first minute of night. Let's say it's nowadays 8:30, and the first minute you want to have Tamimos 24 hours after the counting, but you daven with the minyan every night at the shul, at yeshiva at 10 o'clock. You shouldn't do that. Because Tadir V'She'en Tadir Tadir Kodem, Marav is more Tadir, therefore wait till 10 o'clock, because Tadir V'She'en Tadir, steady and not steady, steady comes first, therefore Marav got to come first. You're davening Marav at 10 and Seis HaKochavim was 8:30, hour and a half earlier. We have a rule, Tadir V'She'en Tadir, Marav got to come first. If you're davening both of them at 8:30, then Taka Marav comes first, and then you can say Sefira. But if you want to say Sefira at 8:30 and then daven Marav at 10 o'clock, shouldn't do that. If you're both together, Tadir and Marav first. But here, do the Sefira first is a problem. Because they should do it Barabim, and the Marav is Tadir, so you got to wait till 10 o'clock. All right. What about, can you count during the day? Yes. If you forgot one night, you can count during the day without a bracha, and then the next night you continue regularly. Because it's still that day. The night started, and the next 24 hours is still that day of the Omer. What if you're not sure if you counted at night? Should you count during the day without saying a bracha? And if you're not sure, then the next night you count regularly. But if you vadai forgot one whole day, 24 hours, you cannot count any more the Sefira with a bracha. But you're mechuyev to count the Sefira every day, but you can't say a bracha. A good way to remind yourself never, ever, ever, ever to get caught in that trap is every single morning at the end of Shachris, when you say Hayom, Yom, Rishon b'Shabbos, Sheni b'Shabbos, Shlishi b'Shabbos, Shishi b'Shabbos, right after that you say the Omer without a bracha. Let's say this morning was Tuesday, right? Hayom Shlishi b'Shabbos. Then you say Hayom Arba Osayom. That was today. Arba Osayom Shem Shnei Shavuos Omer. So if you get used to always saying the Omer every single day of the Omer, even if you counted that night, without a bracha after the Yom, you're never going to be caught. All right, miscellaneous dinim. You're supposed to be standing while you count the Omer. You're supposed to think what you're saying. This is the first day of the Omer, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day. You're counting from the cutting of the barley on Pesach to cutting of the shtei halechem, the wheat that makes the shtei halechem on Shavuos. You're going from animal food, barley is oats, oat is barley. Barley you give it to animals. You don't make bread out of barley usually. Barley bread, I know, but best bread is wheat bread. All right. So you count from animal food, animal sustenance, to human sustenance. Wheat. You're working yourself up from Yetzias Mitzrayim, Pesach, physical freedom, to Shavuos, spiritual freedom. To be a Ben Chorin, Ein of Ben Chorin, Elamishi Yasik, the Talmud Torah, from a free nation physically, from being slaves, to a nation under God. When you were slaves of Pharaoh, you were slaves. When you're Abdei Hashem, you're totally free. Totally free? I got to keep 613 mitzvahs. You're free from that monster called the Yetzer that's an anchor that pulls you down. You're free to do exactly as you want to do. And that's keeping the Torah. That's why you get rewarded in the next world, because you're free to do anything you want. No creature in this universe has free choice. Not a microbe, not a lion, not a tiger, not a malach. Only a human. Therefore you get Gan Eden or Gehenna. You have total free choice. How long you're going to live, who you're going to marry, rich or poor, that's all been decided. Good children, bad children. You have nothing to say about that. You are totally free in one area. That's the most important area. Are you going to Gehenna or Gan Eden? Are you going to be a tzaddik or Russia? That's where you have total, absolute freedom, which an angel does not have. They are makanayu, by the way. Look at the Sfarim. They're makanayu. The angels are jealous of you because they can't change their status. And angels are malach, a worker, a lackey. He's sent around where Hashem wants him to go. Very, very, very big tzaddikim who die in this world never become malachim. Malachim is people, fine people, but they're not the tops. They're sent around. Go for it, go here, go there. Malach, Baal Malacha. He's a worker. He envies you. You can change your status. He can't. You're called a Holech, and Malach is an Omeid. He's standing in one position. He's solidified in cement forever. And Hashem creates him to do a job, then he disappears. You and me have free choice to be good or bad or listen to the Creator. The invisible force, which is so visible to a Torah Jew. Everything that happens to you you can figure it out so easy. And if you can't see the invisible force, you are blind. It's so easy. Isn't it easy to see invisible things? Yeah. Since Leeuwenhoek invented the microscope, now you see invisible things. Isn't it easy to hear sounds that are not audible? It sure is. Telephone, cell phone, radio waves. You have a device that turns it into audible. There's radio waves coming throughout the universe before there was ever one radio station. There's radio waves. You can harness them and change them, and through electronics you can hear them. We see sound. We hear sound that were always there. We just recently, 150 years, started to hear sounds. Now we can see invisible, and we can see atoms. Microscopic organisms. So just because you couldn't see him doesn't mean he wasn't there. Just because you can't see him, it doesn't mean he's not there. It's so simple. It's a force behind all the forces of nature. Nature, that's Hashem. Law of nature. There's no law of nature. It's God's divine law. Well, you know why people don't accept Hashem. I'll tell you why. Because once there's a God up there, you know you got to listen to him, and then you're gonna get ordered or punished, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to feel guilty, so you don't think about it. It's going to happen, if you believe it or not. Okay. Are women mechuyev? Some say no, some say yes. So if they make up their mind to count every single night and the husband reminds them, they can do it. Not forbidden, but they say most women forget. They're busy in this with kids or something. So they better not start because maybe it's one mitzvah. Now she's breaking it. Women are exempt from the sphere because it's a mitzvah seisha azman groma. It comes at a certain time, those 49 days a year. It's not any other time. So it's a mitzvah, it's a zman groma. Shabbos comes every 7 days, she should be potter. Answer is when you're right. When any mitzvah say is combined right next to it with an isser, a lav, then it becomes a mitzvah that she has to do. Which says, don't violate the Shabbos, be shomer Shabbos. Comes together, women have to keep all the negatives. There are 365 negatives, they have to keep all the negatives. So if a positive and negative are wrapped together, it's a negative. A mitzvah losis, they have to keep it.
Why should they keep Pesach? It comes only 7 days a year. Yeah, because it says don't eat chametz, keep the Pesach, eat matzah. It's almost together. And women have to keep every one of the 365 negatives, except 3. Payas says don't cut your payas, women can. Don't cut your face with a razor, women can. And the third one is that it says a Kohen cannot get Tomei, but a woman Kohen can. All right, out of 365 negatives, yeah, they don't have to keep 3. And 248 mitzvahs say they have them. Some of them are not Zaman Groma. They have to keep a lot of them. All right. What about I missed the Omer for 24 hours? I can go over to someone and say, hey, Chaim, make a bracha, make me Yosef. And the Shomeya Ka'oneh, a Shomeya listener, is like I said it myself. Therefore, when you're at somebody's table Friday night, he makes Kiddush to Balabas, you shouldn't make Kiddush. Because Shomeya Ka'oneh, why do you have to make Kiddush? A bracha shein tzricha, bracha you don't need. A lot of parents say, I want to be machanech my child. That's the wrong chinuch, because that's not the halacha. Shomeya Ka'oneh. Therefore, why do you make a bracha? It's unnecessary. And Seder night, you hold the kos, the balabas, the father makes a bracha, and you drink the kos. What do you have to say? Shomeya Ka'oneh. Listener is like you said it. In fact, it says that Oneh is even bigger than the Shomeya, because the Shomeya make one bracha, had one mitzvah making the bracha, you have 2. You heard it, that's like saying it, and you said amen. You have 2 mitzvahs. So when you bring up your child to make his own bracha, that's the wrong chinuch, because that's not the halacha. Let him learn before the Shabbos or the Kiddush how to do it, but while you're making it, no. It's interesting, isn't it? Shomeya Ka'oneh, the mechanism of Shomeya Ka'oneh can be employed to fulfill the requirement of reciting the bracha on Sefira. But there's a machlokas that it can be utilized for the actual counting. Oh, the bracha you can hear from someone, but for counting you have to do yourself. All right, a lot of dinner. Can't go through all of them. It's too much. What about international dateline? You just counted 15, and you go over to international dateline one day, and they're counting. Let's say you're counting 15, right? The next night they count 15, but it should be 16. Or you go the other way over to international dateline. You counted 15, and next night they count 17. Now what do you do? If a person crosses the international dateline doing the Sefira, how should he proceed to count the Sefira? He just counts his own thing? Wait a minute, you're in a part of the world where it's not the 15th of the Omer, it's the 14th or the 16th. What do you mean you count your own thing? You're not in that part of the world where it's 15, it's 14, or it's 16. First opinion, if one traveled east and lost a day, he should count like the people in the far east, but without a bracha. If he traveled to the west and gained a day, he should recount the day without a bracha the next day, and continue counting the following days with a bracha. Let's do that again. If one traveled to the east and lost, to the east is this way. If he went, let's say from New York to London, he's out the international dateline, but you're around the world there to China. If one traveled east and lost a day, you should count like the people in the Far East. I counted 15, I'll count again 15. You count people in the east. No, you gotta count with them. The 15th, you have to count the next day, I guess is the 17th, without a bracha. If he traveled west and gained a day, he should count that day without a bracha. Okay, second opinion. Even if one traveled east and missed a day, he can count that day he missed without a bracha. That's a very complicated thing, I'm not going to go into it. There are certain minhagim of the Sefira period. Laws of mourning. Why is there mourning? Counting, you're working your way up from physical freedom to spiritual freedom. You see as Mitzrayim, that's called, that's freedom for the guf. And now you get a freedom of the neshama. Why is it sad? Why would you be sad? Because something bad happened centuries after the weeks got out of Mitzrayim. 1,000 years later, maybe more than that, 1,000 years. 1,400 years. Rabbi Kiva's Talmidim died. 24,000. 12,000 chavrusas.
Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim. And when the first one died, or the second, did you think he should make a meeting and say, we have to do tshuva? All of them died? That's the whole subject you have to go into yourself. All 24, they didn't catch on. 24,000 died. In the 49-day period, there were 33 days where they died. And they subtract Pesach and the Rosh Chodesh and Shabbosim. It comes out 33 days. If you divide 33 days into 24,000, it's like 779 burials per day. Wow. Slow learners, don't they catch on what's going on? Oh, what was the Aveir already? Murder, killing, what? Agil Arayas, Avodah Zarah, what? Chil Shabbos, what? No, they just didn't respect each other. For not respecting each other, you have Misa? Go into this subject, it's too complicated. Ask your rabbi, get a book on it. For not respecting each other, you get Misa? It's not a nice thing. Well, why is it Misa? It's a whole subject. Rabbi Akiva, the Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu, both of them lived 120 years. Wow. Think about that. Laws the morning during Sefiras. No weddings, no haircuts or shaving, no music. What about reproduced music on the radio? That's in Machlokas. What about a cappella? Means they make sounds like instruments. That's mutter, because there's no musical instruments. However, for versus a big madrega, he's not a technical person. He's not going to listen to the radio high fidelity or because it makes him happy. Technically, maybe he can, but he's beyond all that minor stuff. He understands the tragedy of 24,000 tzaddikim dying. They were tzaddikim. They had one fault. Only tzaddikim will have a nega, a touch from heaven, like Tzuras. It's for Lashon Hara. Only tzaddikim get it. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, and David, and Yoshiyahu HaMelech. Only tzaddikim get it. Only. Naaman, and Gehazi, and Pharaoh. That's leprosy. They died from it. It's Tzuras, you don't have a doctor. And it's curable. It's a kohen, and you do tshuva. And it only comes from Lashon Hara, not from some skin disease. Okay, no weddings, no haircuts, no shaving, no music. One may recite the bracha of Shechianu. One may recite the bracha of Shechianu on a new suit or a new fruit. It is permitted to make a vart, engagement party, but without music and dancing. Now people listening to me say, wait a minute, hey, Rabbi, I'm a lawyer. I can't come in looking like that. I'm a big investment. I work for Chase. I work for MetLife. I work for... Come on, I can't look like that. I can't go like that. Are you kidding? Well, Moshe has a tshuva on that. He says in America, where people shave every day, sometimes twice a day, maybe they had to... If you're going to lose your job, but if you are in your own practice, your own business, your own lawyer, you run the business, they come to you, and you're going to save them, a criminal lawyer or a real estate lawyer, they don't care what you look like. No one's going to fire you. You're your own boss. Yeah, be most enough. Say, listen, excuse my appearance, but I have a condition. I can't, my doctor told me I'm not allowed to shave for a while. I have a certain condition on my skin. 100% true. Your doctor told you. You can't shave. If your own business, you have to be more. If you're going to get fired, I don't know if you're going to give up your panosa for that, but if you own your own business or profession, maybe you have to be stringent. Depends on your level of yirat shamayim, how serious you take this. And this is much more lenient than the 3 weeks, because that's real deep availance. And the 9 days is double, and the month of Av is double, and the 3 days before Tisha B'Av is even worse. This is a minhag not to shave, and the 3 weeks an Issur Rabbanan. All right, you looking for a Torah? There's plenty of them. You want to do the right thing? You have to. Depends on your level of commitment. You'll find it. You can find it. Catch of anything. It is permitted to make a gauge party, but without music. We said that. The exact period when the students of Rabbi Akiva died is a topic of historical dispute. There are basically two views. Shulchan Aruch and Ramos says the students died on the second day of the Pesach until the 15 or 16 days before Shavuos. Well, if you subtract that, it's 49 minus that is 33. That's why with 33 days. Some people start right at Pesach and they end in Lag BaOmer 33, Lag. Some people started Rosh Chodesh today, Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and they go to 3 days before Shavuos. Some go after 2 days, after 2 days Rosh Chodesh, they go right up to Shavuos. And even though they shave on Lag BaOmer, the Lag BaOmer you're not allowed to shave at night, only in the morning. So 1 minute after sunrise is Mitzvahs Hayom Kakula, means like you didn't shave that day, because Mitzvahs Hayom, you didn't, therefore the whole day is like Avelus, but then the rest of the day you shave. And so it's Mitzvahs, we can do that, because you know Shiva, you don't sit Shiva, you sit 6. But you get 1 minute in the morning, it's like 7. Anyhow, the Shulchan Aruch says like this: the fatality slowed down on the 33rd day of the Omer and came to a complete stop on the 34th day. Thus the Mechaber contains that one cannot cut his hair on the 33rd day, Lag BaOmer, but the next morning, 34. Number 2, due to the principle of Mitzvahs Hayom Kakula, part of the day is considered a whole day. Sephardim may cut their hair on the morning of the 34th. Sephardim. On the 33rd day of the Omer falls on a Friday. Sephardim may cut their hair on Friday in honor of Shabbos, because they hold 34 days. Ramah, the students stop dying on the 33rd day. Thus one can cut his hair on the morning of the 33rd day, according to Ashkenazim. If the 33rd day falls on Sunday, one can cut the hair on Friday, because of the honor of Shabbos, which means you look better groomed on Sunday than on Friday. That's Mabazah to Shabbos, therefore you can cut it on Friday, afternoon. Tosfos. Shulchan Aruch says about the Mechaber, 33rd day is they started to slow down, but they stopped on the 34th. Therefore, Sephardim cannot cut their hair in the Lag BaOmer the day after. Ramos says no, they stopped on the 33rd. You can cut your hair right after sunrise on the 33rd day. That's Shulchan Aruch and Ramos. Now let's get to Tosfos. The students died throughout the entire period, 49 days, except on those days when Tachanun is not said, like Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. Thus, there were no fatalities on the 7 days of Pesach, the 6 days of Shabbos. 6 days of Shabbos in between. 7 and 6 is 13. The 2 days of Rosh Chodesh is 14, 15. And the day of Rosh Chodesh Siva, which is 17, and 49 minus 17 is 33. What is Lag BaOmer? Lag BaOmer always comes out on Chai, Iyar, 18th day of Iyar. The death of one of his students, Mishim Bayichoi, Rashbi. Since Rabbi Akiva's students stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, it is customary to rejoice somewhat on Lag BaOmer. We do not recite Tachanun on Lag BaOmer or at Mincha of the previous day. On Lag BaOmer also marks the yahrzeit of the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who enlightened the Jewish world, people with great Kabbalistic works like the Zohar, which is light, Zohar, skylight, Zohar, light. And he was the last of Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim. This is a source for the custom of making bonfires on Lag BaOmer. Bonfires, fire, Zohar, light. He brought the Zohar into the world. And Noach's table had a Zohar, the skylight, right? That means that the sun was shining 24 hours a day for 1 year on top of that part of the world. So it says, Lo Shimshu Hamazolos, for that 1 year, the stars and the planets, nothing was working. So how could the sun shine? Answer is, when it says Noach, why would he have a skylight if it's pitch black out there? Because it says Lo Shimshu Hamazolos, the Mazolos, the stars, the planets, nothing was working, so it should be pitch black. The Shimshu Hamazolos didn't mean they were turned off. They stopped. The sun stayed still. 24 hours a day there was sunlight coming into the skylight. Obviously there must have been another skylight on the floor, go down to the first floor, the skylight on the floor down to the bottom floor, third floor. So he had a Zohar, a Tzadi Hey Reish. A Zohar means the skylight, and Zohar with Zion means light, so similar. So we make a bonfire which is light. And so why do we shoot bows and arrows? Because a bow is a keshes. And a rainbow is also a keshes. And there was no rainbow in the world while Shimon Bar Yochai was living. because the rainbow is a reminder in Noach about Noach's story of the Mabul. Hashem said, even if people are bad, I'm never going to bring another flood to the world, and I'll show you a sign of that in the heavens, a rainbow. And the rainbow is always curved convex, not concave. Not like this. Because a bow like this means you could put a string across it and shoot the arrow down. Hashem said, no, I'm never going to destroy the world again. So he made the rainbow the other way. This way, and the bow this way, which means if you want to shoot an arrow, it goes up. It means God is not going to destroy the world anymore with a keshes, since keshes is a bow. And then during the years that Shimon Bar Yochai was living, the Rashbi, the world was protected from destruction because the tzaddikim protect the world. So therefore, to remember that the Rashbi was the protection, like a rainbow is the protection, therefore there was never a rainbow shining in the years of Shimon Bar Yochai because he was the rainbow. That's why we shoot bows and arrows. The generation of Shimon Bar Yochai never saw a rainbow due to his great merit. Exceptions to the prohibition of cutting the hair during the Sefiras. When Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on Shabbos, this year it didn't, it's in the middle of the week, Wednesday and Thursday. When Rosh Chodesh Iyar falls on Shabbos, it is permitted to take a haircut on Friday. Now some people have told you keep the Sefiras from Pesach to Lag BaOmer and then it's over. Some start the Rosh Chodesh Iyar to Shavuos. 3 days before Shavuos. It's called Shloshos Yimei HaGabolah. But some go after Rosh Chodesh. They start the day after Rosh Chodesh. This week is Friday, and they go right up to Shavuos. They don't have Shloshim HaGabolah. All right, there's much more. I just gave you the highlights. We'll get into Lag BaOmer when we come a week before Lag BaOmer, and after that we'll go into Shavuos, all the minhagim of Shavuos. Hi, Rabbi Yosef, we have a double header this week. It's called Tazria Metzora, and next week too a double header, Achem Os Kedoshim. And Tazria is about a person who gets Sefiras. And Metzora is about a person who brings a carbon because he did Shuvah of the Lashon Hara that caused Sefiras on his body. So Tazria is really called in the Gemara Parshas Negoyim, Nega. And Metzora, what talks about the Metzora getting cured and bringing carbonis, is called Sefer Taharos, Parshas Taharos, the book of how to get Tahar. So it talks about the carbon of a Metzora. So this is Tazria Metzora, Negoyim Taharos. And why do we have the first 7 Pesukim of a Yoledes, a woman gives birth? Then we have the next 117 Pesukim about a guy that talks Lashon Hara, or a woman, and she gets Sefiras, this color, and that color, and this color hair, and that color hair, and pink hair, and... Why do we have 7 Pesukim introduction about a Yoledes? Very nice, but what's it doing there? Oh... Well, Rabbi said, I can't give you to go into detail, but last week's Parshas Shemini talked about the behemoths you can't eat. Crave animals. Then we get into Yoledes, birth of human being. And then we have the next 99% of the Parsha about Lashon Hara. You see what we just described? Gashmias, animals and animal food. Human birth. Ruchnias, and then Lashon Hara, a sin against a person's neshama. That's why you get a touch from heaven. Nega is a touch. Only tzaddikim get Sefiras. It's a divine touch. We're working ourselves up from animal food and animals, physical life, that nurtures your body, your physical body. Then the birth of a human, a male, she's Tomei 7. And she's a female, she's 14 because the girl that she has is going to have to go through this too when she gives birth. So she's double sad for the moment. So 7, 14. And after we talk about the Gashmias of a human being, what you can eat, what you can't eat, and the birth of, so that's the Gashmias. Then comes the Ruchnias, the human being as a neshama. Then we talk about Lashon Hara, the destruction of this neshama. A person talks Lashon Hara, it's the worst sin in the world. You know that Lashon Hara has 34 Averas involved with it. You know that? 34 Averas. 34 Averas. You're aware of that? 34 Averas. Look in the Sefiras Haomer. 17 Lavim you could do. The Sefiras Haomer, Lashon Hara. 14 asays you are violating, and 3 arurim. 34 averos. 3 and 4 is 7. You destroyed your world. This world is 7. The worst of all chatoyim. That's right. Worse than avodah zorah, gila raya, shvichas domim. You know why? When you do avodah zorah, shvichas domim, avodah zorah, gila rayas, there's no sign on your body. You talk against your neighbor, your friend, something wrong. Your body breaks out with its wrath. God wants to let people know, here is a scoundrel, a Rasha. And that little child, that's why it's born, the 7 part, or the psukim about your letters, one woman giving birth right before Lashon Hara. If the parents are Baalei Lashon Hara, they always talk about other people, the child will be born the first day with Saras. He's Tomei. You touch him. Because he wants to expose to the people what kind of parents they are. It's the most vile intersocial chet. Worse than anything. Sefiras Haomer has in the Sefer, from a Gemara, a person who speaks about, not a guy who talks Lashon Hara once in a blue moon. You always talk Lashon Hara about people. Tashlicheu leklovim. You should throw him to the dogs. Dogs should eat him. Pretty bad. It's the only chet where your body shows who you are. The worst of the worst of the worst is Lashon Hara. It's an antisocial disease. It's murder of the neshama. Lashon Hara, Lamed Hey, go to Gehenna, the easy way. It's very bad. Very bad. Sefiras Haomer dedicated life to this. Keep your mouth closed. Don't read Lashon Hara. Don't speak Lashon Hara. Don't listen to Lashon Hara. Therefore, the gossip columns for a Jew is poison. You're not allowed to listen to Lashon Hara. It's poison for your neshama. You're not allowed to speak it. Now, there's 3 types of Lashon Hara. One is called Motzi Shem Ra. You produce a bad name. Means you said something about a person that is totally lie. Mrs. Goldberg, Mrs. Gold, they went to jail when they were young. They were one she was a no good, and he was a low life, and all lies. The worst of the worst kind of Lashon Hara. Then there's another kind. It's called Lashon Hara. That means 100% true. Which means he said, that man went to jail 10 years ago. That man, he was caught once for stealing. Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara, if either it's total sheker, or it's completely true. And then there's a third. It's not bad, it's not good, but it could lead to terrible destruction. It's called rechilus. Mrs. Goldberg, she has 50 pairs of shoes. He has 5 cars. They go to England every year. They go to Airs as well 4 times a year. They have 3 houses. He has a boat, and he has a Ferrari. You know how poisonous that is? Someone may be listening will say, wait, I'm the man Nahel from the yeshiva. How come he doesn't pay full tuition? Or he said he would give $20,000 for construction of the building, and then he said he has no money. Something like this. You know how poison bechilus is? Don't walk around as a talebearer. Rachel, related to Rachel, a sheep, Chaf and Ches. You can do phonetic relationships. Don't blah like a sheep, blah, 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 talk your mouth. Rachel, don't be a talebearer, but you can compare it to Reish Chaf Lamed, Reish Ches Lamed. Rachel is a sheep. And phonetic relationships are a perfectly good way of dashing the Torah, because 2 weeks ago in the Sedra, we talked about Shmini. Last week, 2 weeks ago, talked about the Mizbeach. And the Gemara says, what Mizbeach mean? Mem, Zayin, Beis, Ches, they mean something. And Ches means Kapora. Ches with the Ches, and Kapora with the Chof. For drasha, you're allowed to use phonetic relationships. That's how Hirsch builds his whole thing. Because for drasha purposes, they do it all the time. Ayin and Aleph. All the time. Zohar, there's the example. They do it all the time. Because Torah is very deep. Tess and Tov, they switch it for drasha purposes. Not pshat, not for halacha, dinim, but for drasha purposes. Anyhow, so Loseilech Rochel B'Mechel is the way the Torah frames it, Lashon Hara. So you have total lies, which is Motzi Shem Ra. Then you have total truth, which is lashon hara, and you have blabbering called rechilus. For the total lie, what grows on your body is a se'es, a growth. Motzi shem ra. For sheker, se'es also starts with a shin. For total truth, which is very damaging, you get baheres, bright white colored saras, like Snow White, because it's so easy to prove that it's true. Just look up the records, it's true. And rechilus, you get a type of white that's like an eggshell white or plaster white. So baheres, bahir, bright sunlight, Snow White, that's for telling the truth. That's a terrible crime to tell the truth. You're not allowed to say the truth if it's damaging. And sheker, which is total fabrication, not true at all. You get baheres, which is wool white of a sheep 1 day old. Because that's not so easy to prove, because you look at the records for weeks and it's not true. I don't see the man ever went to jail or stole them. And you're looking, it's so not so easy, but the truth you can find out in a minute. And then comes rechilus, which is krum shelbeksa. It's white, like a white egg. Well, it's not so white. That we could be masakin that ched of lashon hara, Mashiach would come. That would be eliminate all sinas chinam. What a big aveira, lashon hara. What we're trying to say here a minute ago is when Mashiach comes and everybody, all Jews and all Goyim will keep the Shev Mitzvah B'nai Noach and all Jews will be decent. That means to say there will be no free press and there will be no free speech. That's what it means. And there'll be no democratic government. It's one man called Mashiach. It's a monarchy based on a theocracy. And if he makes one wrong move, Sanhedrin removes him. It's not a dictatorship. So it's a different kind of world. Democracy is a great thing for Goyim, the best thing, but not for Israel, because we can't have free press, we can't have free speech. My father, that's all he used to say. He's a great historian. He would like to write a history of European Jewry. He had a photographic mind for these things. He said, I would like to do it, but I can't do it because of lashon hara. I have to tell the truth. The Navi tells bad things about Klal Yisrael. Because he's a Navi! He's told to do that! He's told to do that! Unless a Navi, you can't say it. And a Navi will take the last 2,000 years and write, I'm sure, a continuation of Tanakh. And he'll tell everything good and bad because he's a Navi, Mechuyev. But you're not a Navi, you can't say it. Therefore, you can't write history today because you can't tell the truth. Because you have to say the bad things with the good things. Rabbi Isai, I think we have come to the end of this year today. There's so much to talk about here, lashon hara, that you got to listen to Kol HaLashon every single day. And you will, and I'm on Kol HaLashon now, but I'm also on TorahAnytime.com. So you can listen every day. We give you a continuation of Parshas Tazria, Metzora. And there's a lot of stuff on here. So we want to end this year and wish you a good week. And don't miss any Sefira. Remember, Sefiras Haomer, tremendous madregi. Work yourself up 49 levels. From the 49 levels of Tumah they were at, we're going to go up masakin the 49 levels till we get to Kabbalah Torah. Then we're a new nation. A new nation stood about a horde of slaves who 7 weeks later said, Nasa v'nishma. And we are their descendants. Aren't we lucky? So long. Have a good week.